The purpose of this video is to give you some iPad basics and hopefully answer some of the questions you might have. Do not, under any circumstances, remove your iPad from the case. In almost all cases last year in 6th grade, broken iPads resulted from students removing their iPad from the case. Please do not put a passcode on your iPad. If you put a passcode on your iPad and you misplace your iPad, if a teacher picks it up and goes to log in and they cannot do so because there's a passcode, it will have to be given to the technology staff, who will have to erase the iPad in order to get into it. You have the choice to either put your picture or your full first and last name as the lock screen on your iPad. If a teacher picks up your iPad, we need to know whose it is. The only way to do that is for your picture or your full name to be on the lock screen. So when I mean the lock screen, if you push the button in the upper right-hand corner once and then you hit the home button on your iPad, it will show the lock screen. It has the date and time on it. You do not have to put your picture or your name on the background of your iPad, just the lock screen. Do not add anything to the exterior of your iPad. That includes drawings, etchings, stickers, labels, or anything of that nature. In addition, you must use the District 96 approved and provided case. You cannot use a personal case on your iPad. Do not forget to bring your iPad fully charged to school every day. Chargers are not provided in school for you to charge your iPad. In addition to that, the technology room has no extra iPads for you to use if your iPad is not charged. Any work that you miss is going to be your responsibility to make up. Your iPad is just as important as a pen or a pencil. If you leave your iPad at home, you are considered unprepared for class and cannot participate in the activities that are going on. You're going to be required to finish those activities in some other manner. Because the tech lab does not have extra iPads, you are not going to be able to borrow one. Leaving your iPad at home on a regular basis will result in disciplinary action. Throughout the year last year, we noticed a lot of kids keeping their iPads hanging on the very edge of their books or in places where they really should not have been. Please make sure that you're being careful about where you place your iPad when you're doing your work. In addition, we noticed a lot of kids jamming their iPads into their backpacks, in between books and in between pencil cases, just giving it lots of opportunities to get damaged. That became a huge issue last year, and many iPads were broken. Another thing we noticed was kids walking through the hallways, looking at their iPads, and that became a real issue because kids would come walking around the corner and run into other children who were not paying attention, and iPads ended up getting damaged. Please take very good care of your iPad, whether in class or out in the halls. Inappropriate materials may not be stored on your device, and especially should not be used as a screensaver or a background. Anytime you're putting content, whether it be a picture or video on your device, you have to think to yourself, could I show this image to my teacher or parent? It's important to use common sense. At any point, a district employee could ask you to see your iPad. Please make sure that the material and content on your iPad is appropriate. If it is found that there is inappropriate content on your iPad could be erased. This will cause a problem because if you have pictures or any other content on your iPad and it needs to be erased because of inappropriate content, everything that you have on there will be gone. Please do not delete any apps that you find was placed on your iPad by the district office. Educational apps are there for a reason. Just because you're not using a particular app in class does not mean you can delete it. From time to time, the district will add and possibly remove apps from your iPad, depending on what they're being used for. So please make sure not to move them. You can put them into folders, you can organize them, but we ask that you don't remove district apps from your iPad. Please only use your device in class when instructed by your teacher. A lot of these bullet points really come down to common sense. Obviously, you are not allowed to use your iPad in locker rooms and restrooms. Do not loan your iPad or equipment to other people. This is when we found the most problems last year. Students would loan their iPads to other students, whether it be they were doing a project together or that student forgot their iPad at home. And then that student would leave with the iPad of the other person, and then we could not find that iPad. So please do not loan your equipment to others. It's better off not to just touch anybody's iPad if it's not yours in the first place. Also, it goes without saying not to share your passwords to the App Store or to your Google login. This is critically important. You are responsible for your iPad if you choose to bring it to lunch. Keep in mind, iPads, other kinds of electronic devices around food and water do not mix well. If anything spills on your iPad or if your iPad gets damaged in the lunchroom, it's going to have to be sent in to be repaired, and you may be without your iPad for a while. So please, if you're bringing your iPad to lunch, please be careful. We've been seeing this one a lot lately. Cell phones are not to be used during the school day. They can be used before school, they can be used after school, but it is against the District 96 policy to use cell phones during the school day. You have an iPad, all the content that you need is on that iPad. You should not need your cell phone during the school day. This is a common problem that we've been having the last couple of days. Remember, if you are a 6th or a 7th grader, your parents created your Apple ID and password. No one in district has any idea what your Apple password is. If you've forgotten it, the only way you're going to locate it is to go home and ask your parents. If they don't know what it is, they are going to have to go to the Apple site and reset their password. If you are an 8th grade student, you inherited your password from the district office as well as your Apple ID. When your parents or whoever picked up your iPad received that iPad, it was wrapped in your Apple ID and password. If you do not know what that password is, or if you cannot locate that piece of paper at home, you can come in and ask Mrs. Feldman what your Apple ID and password is. This is another important one that lots of people have been asking about. Items that are purchased for you by the district are located in the App Store under the Purchase tab. There are some people who are seeing nothing there, and that's going to be covered in a previous slide. But in the meantime, once the district purchases an app for you, that's where you're going to find it. Now, if you're an 8th grade student and you look under that Purchase tab, what you're going to find is that there might be apps in there that were purchased from the previous Apple ID owner. And it's important that you look through those things and use common sense to figure out which of those apps are educational apps that the district purchased and are available for download. If you have questions about that, you can ask a teacher, but in that case, you really have to use your common sense when looking through those apps about which apps are appropriate for school. This is the information that really relies on the slide that we just went over. You all have a self-service app on your iPad, and that is very important because what you need to do is everybody needs to touch on that self-service app and accept the terms. So you're actually allowing VPP to access your iPad, and what that means is you're allowing the district office to have access to your iPad in order to make a connection to the App Store and allow your apps to be up there. So if there are people who have not seen anything in their App Store, what they need to do is touch on the self-service app and accept the agreement and allow VPP to access your iPad. Once you do that, it should start to populate your App Store. If for some reason, after doing the things in the first 2 slides, if those things do not work, it may be that there's some lag time between the time that you've gone through this process to the time that the App Store gets populated. So we ask that you give it 24 hours and check back. So if you've gone to self-service and you've agreed to the terms of service, and then you go to the App Store and you go and purchase and the apps are still not there, give yourself 24 hours from the time that you've went through the self-service portion of the app, and by 24 hours those apps should populate. If for some reason they're still not there, you need to come and let us know. One of the biggest problems that we found last year is that students who had issues with apps not working, it always came down to the same thing. They were not updating their apps. The easiest way to avoid having to do this all the time is to just go into Settings and touch iTunes and App Store. Once you do so, you'll see automatic downloads. We recommend setting your apps to automatic downloads, sliding that slider over to green. In addition to that, you'll also see updates. So you can also slide that over and all your updates will be done automatically. You are responsible for backing up the content on your iPad. The great thing about this is that many apps will back up to Google. So for instance, Notability, a little bit later next week, we're going to talk about how we can set Notability to back up all of your notes to Google Drive. Pictures are stored on the device itself. We're going to talk a little bit later about some different options that you have to back up pictures. Items that you create in Google Drive, that's where we're going to do most of our typing. So that, as you all know, backs up automatically. So your best bet is always using Google Drive to type your paper. This probably is the most important slide to all of you. A lot of people have gone home and have discovered that while their internet service is up, they're still not able to get out on the internet. And this is because of what's going on at the district. The district network has to be up and running, even when you're not here at school, in order for you to get internet access at home. And that is because when you go out on the internet at home from your iPad, you actually go to the district first before you go out on the internet, and that is because you are going through the district content filter. If the district network goes down, the filter goes down, and that means that you cannot get through to get on the internet. So if the school network is down, you're not getting internet access. So just because you can't get online at home, that does not mean that something's wrong with your home network. It could mean that something's going on with the school network. The district uses a ticketing system in order to provide tech support to all the teachers. You guys are now all a part of that ticketing system. You all have an app on your iPad that is called Tech Support. That Tech Support app, when you first click on it, you'll have to log in. The way you sign in is with your first name, last name, no spaces, and your Google password. Once you do that, you should not have to do it again. Anytime you're having issues with your iPad, if it's not working properly, if apps are crashing, all you have to do is go ahead and click on the Tech Support app on your device, and that will send a ticket to the district office where they can log the issues. It will also send an email to Mrs. Feldman and myself, and we can get a better idea of where some of the problems are and see if we can take care of them on our end. Schoology is probably the most important app that you have on your iPad next to Notability. And that's because this is where you're going to find out about assignments. Teachers are going to send you content. You're going to use Schoology to open that content. You're going to send it to Notability. You'll then be able to do things in Notability and other apps and drop it back onto Schoology, where teachers are going to be able to collect your homework and grade it. The thing that you need to do first before you can use the Schoology app successfully is to learn how to log in. The number one mistake that kids make when they log into the Schoology app the first time is they click on the email login button. That one does not work. What you need to do is click on the one that says username login. And what that does is when you click on that, you will be able to type in the name of your school. As soon as you type in Woodlawn, you'll see a list of schools with the same name, Woodlawn. Woodlawn Middle School will have a green arrow next to it. Once you touch that Woodlawn Middle School with the green arrow, it will launch Google. Then you're going to log in with your Google username and password, and once you've done that, the app will be active. You should not have to do that again. Once you're in, you should see a column on the left where you can see all of your classes. If you don't see it and there's just 3 lines, if you touch the 3 lines, it will provide you with a list of all your classes. In Schoology, in the upper right-hand corner, you should see a red notification symbol if you have anything waiting for you. That's usually when teachers are sending you content, if there are messages sent by teachers. Any kind of content that we want to notify you about will be there. Make sure that you're constantly checking that. If there's no red box, there are no notifications. The most important part of this is that this is where Mr. Grana, Mrs. Keyser, and myself will send you information, and that will all be sent in your class called lunch. So last year we used this a lot when we had to give you guys important iPad information. We would send it to you via lunch. So you'll get a notification that there's a message waiting for you. When you click on it, it'll direct you to your lunch class, and that's where we're going to send all kinds of iPad updates. Please be patient with us as this first week and next week comes up. We want to make sure that we're meeting all of your needs. They are in the process at the district office of fixing a lot of some of the issues that they've been having. We will get to all of your issues and make sure all the iPads are working properly.